are fucking fun, pal. Factor that fucking in to your druggo fucking offensive type. Health fucking warning. There ain't a lot that's fun, pal. Old age and school and dreams of a life that will never be. Sexless nights, wasted schemes. Your horizon still receding. Speeding hope that's fruitless. Sudden cliff and skidding. Then descent to twisted rest.
Sacred temple of the Emperor Buddha, serene and total peace.
Name? I got a name for the show now.
Oh,
I'll call it Behind the Glass. Behind the Glass.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That'll be fine. It's gonna be fucking, I don't know. But
That seems to be charging properly now. It just wasn't charging for a second. But
Oh no, yeah, my phone's a piece of shit. I'm due like an upgrade on my fucking piece of shit phone. Because I fucking dropped it when I was at the Clash at the Castle. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I never got to speak to you about. What did you think of Clash at the Castle?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the closest thing that you're ever going to get to WrestleMania in this country, I think. Like,
Yeah.
walking around with, well, in Wales,
Yeah.
not this country.
Yeah.
Walking around, it was like, if you could spot a person not wearing a wrestling t-shirt, it was you know, it's a point to you. Like, I mean, you know, for a few years I've been up and down with WWE. Like, I don't like the TV shows. I find them boring, but there's nothing like the atmosphere of one of those things where you get that many wrestling fans together in the city.
Oh, yeah,
You can't beat that shit.
I lost my... I mean, this is just going to be me because I'm a cunt to my friends. I've always had a sort of deep-hated hatred for Rey Mysterio. So when his son turned on him, I was like, yeah! There's like a guy in front of me with his kids and shit, and I'm fucking shouting and swearing and everything. But yeah, we went there, me and some of my friends, like, they don't watch death matches or anything. They're like solely like WWE fans. We went there for my birthday, and we stayed the next night for the AEW thing. And I was paralytic, because that finished at like 6 o'clock in the morning and stuff. It was a messy weekend. Where about were you sitting? We were like kind of facing the ring, like where the hard cam would be, but we were quite far back, so I don't think our tickets were that expensive, to be honest.
Yeah, we're similar kind of position to you. Like quite far back, not like nosebleeds, but quite far back, hard cam side. So good view of the ring, I suppose, but like they were just dots really. I ended up watching it on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. And it was good seeing Drew and everything, but like it's the same. Like we were gonna go and see the ICW, the Scottish one after, but we were far too drunk by the time we left that, so we just didn't go. No, but I'm sure like you were there. I think Big Joe was there. I'm sure Dean was there.
Big Joe was there for some of it.
Yeah, his car got fucked. Yeah, because I messaged him. I think he was going to leave his car at our hotel, but like all the fucking parking spaces were taken away. And I was like, oh fuck's sake. We were going to steal one of those banners. You know, they had them on like all the lampposts and stuff, but we couldn't do it because we were too drunk. But fuck it. But it was like you're saying. It's probably the closest we'll ever get to like WrestleMania, and I assume they'll probably do one next year.
I think it worked, didn't it? It worked. The attempt to do it again.
And plus, it'll be like the same sort of thing as Mania weekend in the States, where you'll get every fucking indie under the sun running in wherever it's going to be.
And all I would need is like, if they can do any match as good as Gunther and Sheamus was on any of those shows, I'd be happy. You know, like that was like being there for that match, like. From where we were fucking sitting, you could hear the chops echoing. It was like, holy fucking shit. Like,
they went crazy.
It's really, really good match.
I'm trying to think in my head if they even have a Welsh wrestler in WWE. I don't think they do. Not anybody that I can think of, anyway. Because, like,
isn't, what's his name? Jordan, what's his name? Welsh. I think they've changed his name now, but I haven't followed WWE.
I know, neither have I, man. I watch like 2 pay-per-views a year and I just give up. I used to watch Raw live every week. Every week I'd watch Raw and go to bed at 4 AM on a Monday. But fuck WWE. So I was going to say, I did this last time. I'm going to ask you 2 slightly different questions. So you're Mount Rushmore of deathmatch wrestling. So what? And then I was going to ask you what your Mount Rushmore of quote unquote wrestling would be, because everybody gets into wrestling before they get into deathmatch wrestling.
Mount Rushmore of deathmatch. So I want. So I kind of want to put Funk and Foley on it, but I think they both do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So they brought Deathmatch to a much wider and broader audience, and, you know, but I think I'm not going to put both of them on because it shortens the list a little bit too much, and I've only got two. I'm going to run with Foley because I think Funk was a different kind of wrestler. He could do anything, anywhere. Like 80s Japan is doing it, 90s Japan is doing it. You know, ECW is doing it, but he could work Ric Flair and have a 5-star match. Like he covered all the bases.
Yeah.
So whereas I think Foley, you know, obviously at times in his career he was the guy for the kids with the sock and all those kind of things. But when you actually look at his body of work, for the most part, he was doing death matches or deathmatch equivalent.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the Triple H Street Fight, for example, one of my favourite matches of all time.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that's not really a death match.
The pedigree into the tax and shit. Yeah.
Exactly. It's got all the elements. They just can't say that's what it is. Like, and they don't, you know, like some people think, well, they're not using glass, but you don't need to use glass.
You don't need to use glass. No, exactly.
The elements are there. So I would say I'm going to put Foley in.
Okay.
Because those 96 and 97 interviews where he was talking about Japan and they showed some of the highlights, they clued me in, you know, those in Power Slam magazine. So, like, they're what made me realise there was a wider world of, like, death out there. So,
yeah,
I'm putting Foley on.
Okay.
Then, secondly, Kazai.
Yep, he's one of mine. I don't know if you can see him in the background. He's like hiding behind a picture there. I've got one of his.
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah, he's still wrestling and killing himself and razors and everything. It's just insane.
Yeah. And the level he's doing it at, still to this day. Like, I watch some of his matches, and I'm blown away. And I look at his body and I think, like, there's no denying that this man has been through everything.
Yeah.
So to still be working at that level, you've got to give it to him. He's got to be up there. Gage.
Yep, he's one of mine too.
So he's the person that, like, I would where Funk would have been. I'm putting Gage in because he kind of does a similar thing actually, because he's brought deathmatch to a broader audience now, right? Yeah. So the Jericho match.
That was, for as good or as bad as anybody wants to say that match was, when that happened, that was probably the biggest and the most amount of deathmatch people have ever watched AEW. We all watched it for that match, and it was good. It was amazing to see him on TV.
He was over with that crowd. He was over, and he wasn't doing anything different. He was Nick fucking Gage.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was over, right? So that means he can take it to any level and still be himself and be over with...
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, I've been watching GCW for like 6 years or so, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 or 6 years, I think. And I saw Gage's run with the title, and at that time he was the most over guy in wrestling on those. Like on those shows, there was nobody even coming close. On WWE shows, there wasn't really anybody that was really over at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So like. For a period in time, Nick Gage was the hottest thing in wrestling, and the match with Matt Cardona was my match of the year that year.
That's...
The story that they built with, like, the way I felt about it, like, the way they made you fucking feel, that was a large part of that is Gage, like, how real he is, how funny he is, how fucking much he cares for this shit and gives everything for it. So he'd be my third, I think. Mm-hmm. Then it gets tough.
That's the thing, because it is 4 people for like you were, I was just going to say before you carry on with Gage, did you see the Moxley match? Yeah, a lot of people were like putting that down, and I was like, he's not wrestled in a long time. He's not wrestled since like once or twice this year or something, and like the whole purpose of the match is it's a story match. He's meant to get beaten down. He's wrestling the AEW World Champion. Like, he's kind of not got a chance. That's the whole point of it.
I agree. Plus, I think we understand on a slightly deeper level how much he's had to put into this, you know? Because You've been to lots of these shows, spoken to lots of these people, and I think to still be giving his all like he did in that match, whether he was hurt or not, tired or not, like you've got to give credit for that. Like the energy that a wrestler puts into a match is what makes the match enjoyable. Not necessarily the skill set they've got or whether they're hurt or tired. It's the energy that they give out because that's what you hold on to, right? Which is why like Hogan Rock is seen as one of the biggest matches ever.
Should have main evented.
The energy in the room, right?
Yeah.
So I think to just like kind of dismiss that match because Gage has slowed down or he's a bit rusty or he seems to be in pain, they're doing it a disservice. They're
it was good.
Unfair to a guy that's given his all for them as well, I think. So that's just my take.
Yeah, I would say for me, he's easily my favourite wrestler of all time. Seen him get set on fire, seen him go to prison, fucking all this shit, and him coming back, and matches with Tremont, and just him and CZW and all this sort of shit. So yeah, Nick Gage is always probably going to be my favourite wrestler of all time, and I'm glad he won the belt because I said this. I said this in I've recorded a review thing. I reviewed the last Kumite show, which I'll talk to you about as well, which I thought was probably one of the best shows you guys have done. The last one. And I don't know if this is just me, right? But for some reason, I saw a little picture that said the show was called Blood and Thunder, and I've not been able to find that picture again. And I'm like, is it called Blood and Thunder? You know how like after the fact they'll put up the name. Man, I was like, I don't know, but so I've called it Blood and Thunder, but I don't actually know what it's called. Doesn't matter.
Nor do I. I don't think it's ever really clarified. I think they just go, so what should we call it then?
Yeah.
Make the decision on the spot, so, you know.
Well, I would say with that Gage match when the big guy, what's his name, Big Cass came in, chokeslammed whenever he was pissed off, I would say it was the same as like One Night Stand 2006. When Edge ran down, no one wanted Edge to be there, but we'll take it. I'll take Edge to interfere and I don't give a fuck, it's fine as long as Gage is champion, who cares? So it's like, get the belt off Moxley.
Agreed.
I was going to say, yeah, but for your number 4 as well, which is tough.
Right, I'm going Tremont.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going Tremont is because A, he's won everything. So like, you have to give him credit on that front. Like, he's been there, done that. He's been in all the big companies, done all the big matches, won all the big tournaments. He's a monster when it comes to that kind of thing. And the second reason is, I think what he's doing at the moment with H2O, and he's also kind of building the future of deathmatch, right? So he's past, present, and future, and I think you have to give him credit for that. He's taken USA deathmatch wrestling and taken it to another level.
Yeah,
and fair play to him. So I think for what he's doing for the business now, I think he'd be my 4th pick.
Brilliant. And I think I said this last time when we recorded this last time. I'd love to see you against him. That would be an awe-inspiring thing, I think, for you. I think you've got very, very similar styles, and I think it would be a fucking great match. So hopefully at some point we can get that to happen, because he is coming here. he is transversing the Atlantic. I don't know who he's coming with, but he's coming with people. What was going to say? Oh yeah, and
for me personally, it'll be a fucking honour and dream match. I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be around, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully down the line before he retires again, it will happen.
He's still, the thing is like, I think you're a couple of years older than me. I'm 32. I don't think Tremont's too much older. I mean, are you 35? No.
Yeah, I think he's a year younger than me.
Yeah.
I think he's 34, right?
But it's when you see him and you're like, he's been doing this for so long, and you're like, how is he so young? It's insane.
Well, that's kind of like, I'm 35, right? So by rights, I should kind of be coming to the end of my what people would see as your kind of span in wrestling. You know, people do go longer, but like your peak years. But I haven't been doing death matches for most of that time. I've been doing family shows, and you know, and because I'm a bigger guy, a lot of the time I'm fighting guys that are smaller, so I'm not necessarily doing tons of bumping all the time. It's more character and stories. So, you know, Tremont's got bad knees, and he's fucked up in all different areas because of the stuff he's done. Whereas I'm just like kind of getting started now.
Yeah,
so
man.
I feel like on the one hand, I probably bought myself a few years, and on the other hand,
Yeah.
like, there's not. I think this has got a span, right? There's not that long that I'm going to be able to do this for, so I've got to get as much in as I can.
Yeah.
I think over the next 5 years. I think I'm looking at when I'm 40.
Yeah.
So if I can get another 2 good years of deathmatch experience, and then hopefully, then those kind of opportunities to face guys of that caliber, of that legacy will come. But like, I'm not in any rush. I'm gonna do my bit. I'm gonna, just keep trying and keep pushing forward, and we'll see what happens.
Perfect, man. And like I always say, for anybody, DDP didn't start wrestling until he was 35. So it's not, I don't think age is really like that big a thing for wrestling as well.
Batista as well, right? Batista was
Batista as well. Now he's a movie star. He's a better actor than The Rock. I'll give him that.
I would tend to agree. I think he's like naturally like slightly like funnier in a dry, droll kind of way. The Rock's very on the nose, right, a lot of the time.
The Rock. The thing is, I find strange about The Rock. That's completely off topic, right? See, for The Rock, when we were watching The Rock when we were like younger, and The Rock was fucking in the Attitude Era, and I hate calling it the Attitude Era because we never called it that at the time. When it was like 2000s, like 99 and things like that. The Rock had so much charisma. When you see him in a film now, he's just so stone-faced and boring. I just don't... It's like a different person.
I think that's more to do with Hollywood and what they want, shot to shot, than it is to do with The Rock. Because I think if you see him in, like, interviews and stuff like that,
he's charismatic.
He's still quick as fuck. He still fires off, and he's still got that charisma, and it carries. I think that, like, films don't always do everybody justice.
Exactly.
I mean, he's, like, the biggest film star in the world, but... I do agree, like, you don't get all of that Rock energy out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems when he's in films.
I haven't seen Black Adam yet, so I'll give that
I'm probably going to talk about this later. Have you seen the new Halloween? Let's see, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that if you want. Because
I haven't seen it. I've spoken to a few people, and the answers have all been the same. And it's not looking good.
It is the worst Halloween film, and I've seen every Halloween film. I've seen about all 10 or 12 or however fucking many there are, if you include the Rob Zombie ones, and it's fucking shite. I won't ruin it, but it's very... I don't really like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hugely disappointing.
The thing is the last one, the Halloween Kills movie, was fucking awful, and this makes that look really good. But
Joe Connors told me that he quite liked the last one. He didn't understand why everybody hated it so much, but this one he detested, like fucking loathed it.
The last one was more, I think, because everybody in the town's so dislikable, and I fucking hate them all and I want to see them all die. The last one was like funny bad, where you could go and watch it and you could have a laugh. This one was just like boring bad, and you're like, you don't want anything to be boring. That's the worst thing you can ever say. Maybe that's enough of me.
It's a shame, because the first one had so much fucking potential as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here we go, and then...
When he kills those people, for some reason they bring his mask back, and he's breaking their teeth, and it's all over in that bathroom. Yeah, that was great, but... I just don't like Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, this has got absolutely nothing to do with anything, but I remember they were doing... Jamie Lee Curtis was doing an interview, and they were talking about Halloween Kills, and that had been filmed before the pandemic. And she'd done an interview where she called it a masterpiece, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And then she said, she was like, this film's very, very evocative of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was like, it was filmed before that happened. I was like, how can you possibly say that? I was like, you can't, it's like, I'd hate that woman. I really, really don't like her. But anyway, moving on. So I was going to say, so for your wrestling, like, Mount Rushmore, a lot of mine's kind of similar, because I'd probably say like funk and stuff would be in mine as opposed to my deathmatch one.
Funk's in mine. In mine. But if he's not going to the deathmatch one, he's definitely going in this one. He's the best of all time. In my opinion, having watched his matches from every fucking generation, having seen every bit of footage that I could find on YouTube of him, I think he's the best ever.
Yeah.
Match for match, I don't think anybody gets reactions like he does from the simplest stuff.
Yeah.
His timing is impeccable. His promos are incredible. Even when his stuff isn't good, I still love it. Like, I've seen him hit like maybe 2 good moonsaults in his entire career.
It was fucking, what show was it? It was Hardcore, when it was One Night Stand was running and Shane Douglas ran the Hardcore Homecoming. and it was the same thing, and it was him against Douglas, and he goes up a ladder and he tries to do a moonsault, and it just like crumples under him. But it's kind of like when you see him do it, it's almost like seeing like Kurt Angle do a moonsault. Like, he's gonna miss.
Yeah.
Like he's never really ever gonna hit it. There's no fun in him hitting it.
You don't see Ric Flair do a moonsault. You don't.
No, yeah.
You're not going to see Harley Race do many.
Yeah.
Like he was just from a different era, and yet it threw everything at it. Wherever he was, whatever he was doing, it was like, I'm going to make this work, and he always fucking did.
Yeah.
Number one for me. Number one, first face on the wall.
Perfect.
I'm not going to put Foley on because I put him on my deathmatch wall, and he comes first on my deathmatch wall.
Yeah.
But he's my, like, although I think Tony Funk's the best, Foley's my favourite.
Yeah, you told me that before. Your favourite wrestler's Mick Foley, which totally
it got
agree.
me into all this shit. Like, I wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for Foley. Like, it wasn't just like the matches where he was giving everything. It was also like the books where like you could see like not only how much he gave a shit, but also like kind giving. Like, you want people to look good.
Yeah.
When he, a full credit to that. So yeah, he's not on it, but he would be. You know. He
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Taker.
Yeah, you can't not have Taker, I suppose. I'm glad. When he got beat at Mania, though, I was very happy.
Yeah, me too. I've not always been the biggest Taker fan. Like, there are periods where I like him and periods when I don't. So like the Attitude Era period where he's like basically the devil, love that shit. Like, I'll take that shit any day of the week. The big red, like booger red and all that bullshit.
I was a fan of heel hardcore champion Taker.
Yes,
where he was beating the shit out of fucking David Flair, and he was beating up Maven, and he fucking had that match against Jeff Hardy, that ladder match. I like heel American badass Taker, yeah.
Face double denim Taker.
Terrible.
Lazy, boring fucking promos. That shit wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. I've never ever really liked his promos. I mean, I know his promos are essentially more or less the same sort of thing. But like, I liked him when I don't really need him. That's why I liked him when he's with Paul Bearer, because you don't need Taker or Kane to talk.
No,
so
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. And I think actually, like, Kane was a more natural promo than Taker was in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, I think Taker could be really like find it quite hard to think on the spot sometimes during promos, and you can see it working on his face, which is not what you need when you're playing like a dead man.
yeah, I know what you mean. It was strange. I mean,
having said that though,
yeah,
fucking the first character I ever fucking loved in wrestling had every single VHS that they released of Taker when I was a kid. He continued to wrestle all the way through my life up until like a few years ago, and was still putting on mostly in the last few years. Well, you know, let it go.
The ones in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I'm sorry to bring them up. It's not. In all fairness, one of them wasn't his fault. I think that was more down to somebody called Goldberg, but whatever.
Yeah. Both of those, like, they're two of the worst matches I've ever seen. Not because. Just because, like, you go in with a certain amount of expectation, even though you know that they're limited now, and you're like, but it's Taker Goldberg, so they're gonna, and then you get this damp fucking squib of a match that, like, nearly kills Taker, and you're like, oh, fuck me.
I don't agree with those Saudi Arabia shows. I don't care if they want to do them for money. Who cares? None of my business. Somebody wants to do something for money, that's for them. But don't sell it as if you're trying to do women a favour by booking them there. You're in Saudi Arabia of all fucking places. Like, either admit it's all for money or don't go. I don't understand that.
It's quite clear what they're doing it for, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like, and the paydays of the people that, like, Shawn Michaels wouldn't have done that match if he hadn't been paid millions and millions of dollars, and he probably shouldn't have done that match because it was fucking awful.
Oh, that was him and Triple H against Kane and Taker, wasn't it? Yeah. That's when Kane's mask came off, didn't it?
Yeah,
I remember that. I mean, we've seen Kane's face anyway, but this doesn't matter. But
if that's the most memorable part of the match, then we're really struggling.
That's true, actually. Yeah, true. Oh god. But what was I going to say? So what have you got? So you've got Funk, Taker. Who'd be the other two?
Okay, it gets tough here, right? It gets tough. Kobashi.
I have a signed 8x10 of him somewhere. If you want a signed 8x10 of him, I'm sure I've got a spare one if you actually want one.
Yes, I fucking do, absolutely.
I'm gonna wait. I've found something somewhere, and I can't remember where I've put it now. Where is it? I have that book that I was gonna give you. Fucking Pondo's book. I found that book, and I have it somewhere, but I'll bring it to you. Yeah, I got him. So ICW and Olds Barred ran like a thing where they sent loads and loads of shit to Kobashi, to get signed. And I got an extra 8x10 for some reason, so I'll give you a signed Kobashi one. So.
No, well, thank you very much.
No worries, man. No worries at all. I'll need to find it.
In my opinion, he's the best babyface of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think, like, I've never, like, he had that kind of Ultimate Warrior response, but all the time, for years, whilst doing really good matches instead of 1 minute shite ones, right? So every time the crowd heard his music, it was like, oh my fucking god, here we go, Kobashi. And then he would be so, like, every time he took a strike and you could see that he felt it, and the crowd would, you know, and feel it with him. And then every time he started fighting back, the crowd would, so I can't stress how much I fucking love Kobashi. Like, and some of those matches are, I guarantee you, those guys came out of those matches hurting more than I have out of some of my death matches.
Oh yeah.
Because the way they fucking smashed each other up, like suplexes off the apron, like landing on the necks from 8 foot in the air, like,
burning hammers and shit. The thing is when I was younger, obviously we got the wrestling channel, which ran for a little while in the UK. If nobody knows what that is, it was a channel that used to get actual wrestling. They used to have 3PW and CZW and all this shit. But my dad got really, really into, for some reason, All Japan women's wrestling. He usually liked Asia Kong, and he really got into Noah. And my dad really liked Kobayashi, so it would be him against Misawa, and then there'd be him against, like, Jun. Was it Jun? What's his second name? Akiyama? Yeah, and there'd be matches, and it's just chop, just endless. And like, me and him were watching it, and I was like, holy, this is sort of my introduction to, like, Japan and Noah and things like that. And I was like, holy fuck. I was like, this is great, like, really, really good.
They would chop each other till they bled.
Yeah.
Like, legit, like, blood, like, flowing, not a little dribble, like, literally flowing down the chest. Fucking amazing.
Yeah, fucking. I do miss the wrestling channel for things like that, and got me into, because these days recently I know a lot of, like, people like sort of indie, flippy, strong styley stuff, but I've never really watched that much in New Japan, to be honest. For me, but it's just not my thing. But then again, if you're going to put like a Kobayashi match on where he's against like Samoa Joe or something, you're like, sweet fucking Jesus.
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of New Japan. I like New Japan for a long time. I think it sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. A lot like WWE, it goes through hot periods and then bit shit periods. And it's had a bit of a shit period recently. I think COVID played a big part in it.
I think a lot of people are moaning about fucking Okada being in main events all the time and shit.
Yeah, I think the booking is it because they run so many shows and they don't rotate the matches too much. It can sometimes seem like a lot when you watch. Like, you can't watch show after show after show because you get a lot of the same, like, kind of matches.
It's like watching GCW. There's too many shows. There's too many shows. But apparently I think they're getting an app, which is meant to be announced on the 1st, supposedly.
Yeah, it's announced at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, so hopefully that will save me a tiny bit of money. Because my fuck is it expensive watching Game Changer Wrestling all the time.
This is why I love your podcast.
Thank you.
I can't fucking afford to buy every fucking GCW show every time they put one out, which is like once a day. So, like, I need you telling me what the fuck's going on.
And that's the thing is, last night I had a drink and I watched XPW. I don't know if you saw any of that. A lot of people are getting quite angry about XPW last night.
I've seen some of the clips.
Did you see the skewer?
No. Oh, the one that the ref... Yeah, I saw
Sweet fucking... It's right in his... And he bit... I was like, oh my god. But fucking... For me... I mean, this is... Obviously, wrestling shouldn't be political or whatever. But it is. It's because it's wrestling. For people like Necro Butcher and Drake Younger, who I think are two legends of this business, I couldn't give a flying fuck what they think or how they believe. And if somebody wants to do that as part of their gimmick, fine. It's just a gimmick. I mean, it is their real lives, but just if you don't like it, don't pay and don't watch it. You know?
Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying about like them using it as a gimmick. I agree with what you're saying about I'm not really bothered about what their personal beliefs are. I think when you're fucking using racist language during
that's true.
Maybe pull it back a little bit because
that was a bit much. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't need that bullshit because like what it does then is it makes the whole conversation about you being a racist cunt rather than anything to do with the rest of the show. So all they've done is they've proven what everybody's been saying about HPW recently, which is you can't trust them to put on a quality show without fucking it up by doing something stupid.
Or running about 6 hours too long. It's just like, my sweet Christ.
Look, obviously Joe gets booked over there, and like it must be fucking. I remember watching XPW when I was younger as well. And I was big into it, so I know that it's something that he really wanted to tick off his list.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, jobs for the boys is like important. However, like just fucking shouting racial slurs and stuff.
Exactly.
Just get over yourself. Stop trying to pop yourselves and just try and put on a show that everybody can fucking enjoy.
It's just
I
completely agree, man. I think it's a lot of the things to do with that company and who's in charge of it is a lot of I think it's all done on purpose to purposely annoy people. As opposed to it being wrestling or an angle or anything. I think it's done all on purpose to piss people off. But yeah, I agree with that. There isn't a place for fucking racism and things like that. You don't need to actually say things like that to make it a gimmick.
No, it's a work, man. Like
exactly.
Like if you want to imply it subtly, there are potentially ways and means you could do that, but you don't need to. I mean, I would argue that's possibly not even necessary, but there are ways that you could potentially make that work.
Yep.
Well, this is just bullshit. It's just shouting words to get a pot, like to get a eat.
Yeah, no, that was fucking bizarre. But then again, I mean, they're running against that. It's just there's so much fucking shit in wrestling and politics and shit. It's fun for me to cover everything, but in general, I'm like, Jesus fucking hell, it's just something so childish and petty. But fucking, what was I going to say?
I need the fourth one for my
right? Yeah.
Shit. Probably should have like.
Like were you like a WCW or a WWF kid?
I had both.
I only had WWF.
We had this weird thing called Diamond Cable where you could get TNT.
Oh, okay.
So I was always watching WCW, and we had Sky, so I'd get like the clip shows of WWF.
Yeah.
So kind of had both, which was really good for me. Like there are arguments you can make about a lot of people, but I'm gonna say who personally like my favourite. Like I thought potentially Vader. I thought there's a few names that popped up. I'm going Bryan Danielson.
Okay, yeah.
When I started getting into deathmatch wrestling was the same time that I was getting into indie wrestling in America, and I was watching a fuckload of Ring of Honor.
Yep.
In fact, it was the Ring of Honor CZW show, like the crossover shows, that really like kicked all of this.
When they spray painted it in the ring and stuff. Yeah.
Like Necro Butcher at that time, like was just my favourite wrestler. It was like a throwback to a style of wrestling that I fucking loved, and you didn't see anymore. And it was happening in Ring of Honor. I was like, this is crazy shit. So I watched a lot of those shows. I loved Punk. I loved Samoa Joe. I watched a lot of PWG as well.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
Anything that I could find at that time, I was like grabbing what I could. And the one guy that was consistently brilliant throughout that whole fucking period was Bryan Danielson.
Yep.
Then he went to WWE, and as Daniel Bryan, he was one of the two, along with CM Punk, most entertaining things that happened to WWE in fucking years. And now he's come out of there, gone to AEW, and he's still having cracking fucking matches.
Yeah.
Like, he's the best everywhere he goes. He's proven it for nearly 2 decades now. And he fired up my love for indie wrestling, which I really don't think I would have ever started training to wrestle as a WWE fan. It was the indie stuff that made me go, I want to do this shit.
Yeah.
I want to get in there. I want to fight. I want to see what I'm capable of. And it was Bryan Danielson that was one of the very main key components to that happening. So yeah, I'm going Bryan.
Perfect, man. I would say recently, I mean, I love Bryan Danielson as well. My favourite ever Bryan Danielson gimmick was when he had the fucking hemp title and he was giving people shit and being a vegan. And see, that's how you do a gimmick like that, where you can be a vegan and be horrible and have people hate you. That's how you do a gimmick properly, without being nasty or offensive, really. Putting people down, you know what I mean? No, I'll Bryan Danielson.
Totally agree.
Daniel Bryan, I mean, he was with Eric Rowan for some reason. I don't know why he was with him, but he was still fine. He was like, and he had like the sort of like recycling sign and shit.
Yeah, great shit.
But yeah, when he was in,
Let me just point out, those are my personal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying they're the fucking people will be going, why haven't you put Stone Cold on? Why haven't you put Hulk Hogan on? Why isn't Bruno Sammartino on there? Look, they're just the 4 people that I really fucking like the most.
Hogan's one of these people that's very, very polarising, but I think he caused more damage than good for wrestling in the long term. My personal opinion. For me, mine's is Terry Funk, Sabu, Raven, and for an outlandish one is Stevie Richards, who I think is very, very fucking underrated and undervalued and underappreciated. And him and Right to Censor, I used to fucking hate the Right to Censor. But now, as I'm older, I love the Right to Censor. I'd love there to be like a gimmick like that now. But anyway, then I was just going to go through, I spoke to Joe and went through like various different matches. I'm going to do the same format for this one. So your first death match was, was in Pop World in Derby. And it was last fucking August, which is mental to think that was more than a year ago. So Kumite is like over a year old now, which is fucking crazy. Where you were against Joe and Darko for the Death Wolf title. So that was your first death match. It's no ring. So how did that feel for yourself? Because I know that Joe came a tiny little bit late because he was other places doing other things for that show. But how was that match for you? First time doing it, especially with no ring as well, which would be fucking bizarre.
So for 2 months leading up to it, so I didn't know Joe was going to turn up late leading up to the match. So that hadn't really played into my thinking at all. So for 2 months, I was more like, right, obviously excited because I wanted to do this my entire life. Obviously nervous because you don't know how much this stuff's going to hurt until you're actually doing it.
Yep.
So, there's only one way to find out. And there was a big part of me that was like, I'm being asked to do the first match for this company with 2 experienced guys, so I didn't know whether to go, well, that's obviously a really good thing. I feel confident because like that's a lot of faith to put in me, or feel like, am I going to be out of my depth because like I still don't know whether I can sink or swim doing this. So a lot of trepidation and stuff headed into it, but then the day before it was like a fucking calm came into me, like I was stoned as fuck, just like chill kind of. I think what happened was I realised, well, it's gonna happen now, so whatever happens. I just gotta go and give it my all, and it was like, right, I get to kind of go and live the dream tomorrow, Like you say, it's the first time I've ever done a no ring match as well, so there was just so many like factors that I've never have had in any other situation before. Then I got there on the day and I was watching them build all the stuff, and then the nerves started coming back a little bit because I'm watching them like tape barbed wire to a table that there's a good chance I'm going to be going through later.
Who was doing the setup? Was it the Outlaws?
Yeah, it was the Outlaws.
I would shout out to them. Nicest guys in fucking wrestling. I don't think deathmatch wrestling would be where it is in the UK without them. So
they're not just the nicest either, they're the fucking best.
Yeah.
Like, their footage, their editing, their weapons, they are the fucking best, I'm telling you.
And t-shirts. And for the merch and shit as well, man. I think you've got t-shirts out now as well, just to shout them out. So fucking if you want a t-shirt, because I'm sure I've got one that I think's getting sent at some point. I don't know.
It's going to be posted tomorrow morning.
I keep forgetting it's fucking Sunday, by the way. I keep thinking it's Saturday, and I don't know why. It's usually I was working today, but usually I'm off on a Sunday, but I'm off tomorrow now, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. But anyway, no, but that's pretty. Yeah, but fucking message you on Instagram or that if you want like t-shirts and stuff. If you want Alton Thorne's new t-shirt,
Sure.
I'll put a picture up of it somewhere on this, and this will probably be up by tomorrow as well. Anyway, carry on. What were you gonna say?
So yeah,
For the
then I kind of got there and I was watching the Outlaws build the shit, and it was like, okay, that's legitimate barbed wire that they're tied to that piece of wood there. That there is a certain amount of chance that I'm going to be going through tonight, and then the nerves are kicking in a little bit, and then Joe got in contact with Darko and said that like the chances of him being there like anywhere near on time were looking pretty fucking slim. And then the Zen fucking feeling came back because it was like, well, there's nothing I can do. We can't plan the match. We can't do anything. Like, we're just going to have to go out there and wing it for the most part, you know? Just do what we do. And by that point, again, it's like, what am I going to do? Back out now? Like, I've said I wanted to do this all my life. Here's the opportunity. Let's go. So it was like Zen. I remember looking at myself in the mirror in the toilets and going, holy shit, here we go, man.
yeah, man.
And I'd always said as well that if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it properly. I wanted it to be against the best guys because not that I don't want it to sound arrogant, you know. I just know that there's lots of small companies doing stupid shit in places that they shouldn't be doing them.
Yep. We'll go on to speak about that in a little bit as well. Yeah.
And quite frankly, if I was going to do it, I wanted it to be with guys that were, you know, that knew what they were doing, that I knew I could trust, that had been around the block a little bit. And who the fuck would be better than Darko and Jay for that first one? So I knew it was in safe hands, even if we only had 5 minutes to like say hello before we went out there and did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fucking blast, really. Like, as nervous as I was, I loved that. I do it for the adrenaline. That's a massive part of it. I do it for the adrenaline rush, the adrenaline dump, and that fucking feeling of it's you've got to go do this now. Doesn't matter if you hurt, doesn't matter if you bleed, and you got to get up. You just got to get the fuck up. I love that shit, man.
No, man, I totally agree. And if you want to watch that match, you can get it on. It's on Kumite's YouTube. For that one. But then that was the first show. I fucking loved that match as well. And then obviously it's on Joe's DVD, which is somewhere in amongst my pile of crap over there. There's so much shit everywhere in my house, man. It's just full of books and gin bottles and loads and loads of shit. What was I going to say? And then the next one was the same year as well. Was November Pain. This is my second time seeing you. First time seeing Tombe, who I really really like as well. And it was a coffin match as well, which I thought was pretty fucking cool. How was that as well? What building was that in? I never wrote down the building for that.
I don't remember what the pub was called. It was like a very last minute. They'd been kicked out of every venue they tried to book. Like, nobody wanted them, so they found through scrupulous and certain means a little back room in a pub that would allow us to do a show in there for like 75 people. Was about a capacity of 60 people in the room. Oh yeah, it was. The crowd was pretty good for it, for as like small as the room was. So the crowd was pretty hot as well. I thought for that show. The crowd were fucking awesome, and then, you know, and there was nowhere to hide in that room. You cannot pull a strike. You can't. They're right on top of you. So it was a kind of situation that I'd never been in before, because you could feel the fucking crowd breathing down your neck. You were that close to him. So me and Tomby basically said to each other, right, mate, let's go fucking hit each other really fucking hard. And that's what we did for 20 minutes. It was
an awesome fucking match. And I think I've met yourself and Tomby at a subsequent Kumite show as well. But I think that you and him and Antonio Gonzalez, and I think that this is another thing I'll go and speak about as well. That was a great match. Was for the next thing was TNT DOA. This year, unbeknownst to me at the time, there's 2 deathmatch tournaments now that TNT are running. One's in fucking Birmingham, of all places, which I didn't expect to run. I've never been to Birmingham before. As many as my travels down south have taken me, I've never been to Birmingham, so I'll be going to that whenever it is. But I would like to see yourself in either a DOA this year or fucking next year. And I think with your performance at this year's tournament, I keep forgetting it's fucking February, man. It's been a fucking weird year. I think hopefully we'll get in at least one or both of those tournaments. But I'd like to see a fucking Kumite showcase. You, Gonzalez, Tombe. I don't see why, I don't know, because all three of you guys can fucking go, you'd fucking kill it, and it'd be a completely different audience, especially for Tombe and Antonio Gonzalez. But anyway, so for that match at TNT's DOA, which was at the Fusion nightclub, which is the first time I'd ever been there, which is down some... It's a nice venue, so we've got the weird like light fixtures and shit. Me and my girlfriend were up in some sort of horrible, dirty, like rat-infested, like DJ booth thing, like cobwebs over it, and I thought I was going to get chucked out and someone's going to tell me to fuck off, but they didn't, because I'm quite short. So I was like, I was standing, it was so busy, I was like, fuck, I'm not getting VIP, I don't want to go to the balcony, but I should have for that show. But anyway, I remember your match was against Clint Margera, and I thought it was probably one of the best matches of the tournament. But you were replacing like two different people, because I think it was meant to be like Cologne, Charlie Evans wasn't there, and the man who took a massive bump at 1PW last month or this month, Tyler Devlin as well. So, fuck yeah, man. So, big shoes to fill for those fucking people not being there, but I think you did fucking excellent for that match. So, how was that wrestling Clint in TNT?
Cheers for that, pal.
Yeah, no
I
worries,
appreciate that. So, again, it was one of those things where it was very last minute for them because they'd had all those pullouts, and I knew that nobody there was really... I'd had 2 death matches at that point, and one of them wasn't really a death match. Like, we just did death matchy things in it. It wasn't actually called a death match. So I knew that they weren't going to know who I was, and I wasn't going to be a replacement for, like, the American and Australian talent they were going to have coming in. So my thinking was very much, I've just got to do something different to get myself over. So, because I knew that it was going to be a first slot in the tournament against Clint. I knew Clint was having at least 3 matches because I knew he was going to be winning the tournament.
Yeah.
So I had to think, and then actually on the night he ended up having 4 matches because he took one of the places in the tournament because he'd had a match with Rory Coyle at the start of the show for the title and then went on to have 3 more matches. So it was like, he didn't want to wrestle for long for obvious fucking reasons. Don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
And I was the second match of 4 matches, which is a very difficult... That's like the match where you want to like keep it down, right? And here's me coming in like, well, I've got to replace these guys and get myself over.
Yeah, exactly.
In a match that wants to go 10 minutes. I'm like, right, okay. So the Nettles, that's where the Nettles come in, right? Because like nobody else is doing it. You bring them out the bag, they immediately have a smell. Everybody goes, "Oh fuck, that's Nettles." Right?
It's a very like quintessentially British gimmick because nowhere else has Nettles.
It could only work here.
Exactly.
Nobody else will know what the fuck it is. I quite like that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, man, it's a very like. And if anybody knows you've been stung by fucking nettles, it's like if anybody's ever like done stuff in houses and you've had to move insulation about, it itches your fucking skin like fuck. Nettles are horrible.
I think even though like there'll be some Americans watching Kumite because it's on IWTV.
Yeah.
And I think that the reactions from the crowd tell the story. The second they realise it's Nettles, the response from them, like, oh fuck, like nobody wants anything to do with that shit. So even though an American might not have an idea what a nettle is, I think they know when it comes out of the bag because of the
reaction
response to it. That it's not a good thing, right?
So the minute they'd see it, they're like typing on Google, "What the fuck's a nettle?" Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I was going to say you've got this because I did for the last one we've done this. We do have you telling the story of the nettles in the fucking Pile Driver magazine, and I'm in that as well. So somebody fucking buy that from Deathmatch Outlaws. Which is did you get your copy for that? Yeah, which is a handy little magazine to have.
It's fucking, again, Deathmatch Outlaws being fucking amazing.
Yeah, exactly, man. Therefore, but let's say for that match with Clint, the 3 things I remember in that match, the 3 spots that still stick out in my memory, I took footage of that match on my phone. I even checked that today because I was trying to remember what the fucking date of that show was. Because even though TNT is one of the biggest companies in England, you go in Cage Match. Doesn't have a lot of shows. Doesn't have the DOA results. It's got the GCW results, but there's some. But it's got. This is a strange thing for like. So Cage Match doesn't have DOA, Thrill Kill, all those shows. It's got all the Kumite shows, which I find a bit odd for like such a strange thing.
I don't know how it works, but I think like 1/5 of my matches are on there.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it's a strange.
Like, sometimes it'll miss companies that they usually have.
Yeah.
Just like showed by them randomly, so I don't know how that works really.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But for that match, there's 3 spots to stick out. Was your big spinning fucking boss man sidewalk slam. It was awesome. You getting skewered in the head with the skewers that I took. Because I remember seeing that. Because I took a little video. That's got nearly like 2,000 views as well, that video. I was like, holy shit. And then, obviously, the nettles. They're the 3 things I remember from that match. So you got your fucking self over, man. And for me, unless you're going to do a big fucking title match or whatever, matches don't need to go more than 10 minutes. People need to realise it's like sometimes when I watch GCW, and this isn't really a criticism of the guys working, I don't need to watch 4 25-minute matches in a row. It tires you out for the actual matches that have quote-unquote meaning to them as opposed to just exhibition matches. Not every match needs to go 25-15 minutes.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, me and Clint started off at a clip. We weren't like, right, let's feel each other out. We started hitting each other.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've seen how big me and Clint hitting each other. It's not necessarily going to last 25 minutes.
No, yeah, exactly. So it's for me.
I totally agree. It depends on what
Yeah.
what you're trying to do in the match, but a lot of the time it just doesn't fucking need to be that long. And that is a problem with indie shows in general and why they go on for hours and hours and people can't get the fucking train home.
Yep, exactly. Because it's like for me, and especially for Kumite, and I'd say the same for ICW and Olds Barred, shows, including intermissions and everything, are round about 2 hours tops. Fine. Perfect length for a wrestling show. Whereas XPW on the other hand's like 6 hours. Which is fine, but it's just, you don't need that amount of time, but I was going to say. And then, so that was DOA, and then hopefully you'll be in DOA this year, which is March 4th, I think. I might be right, I might be wrong. And then, so finally, Kumite got home in Vines, which is a lovely. I say lovely. It's a dive bar venue, but I love dive bars. Wait 2 seconds. I'm just gonna get a beer. 2 seconds, man. I've got myself some Madre. So
this is why decanting whiskey into your bottle before the podcast is a good idea.
What'd you say, man?
Nothing, pal.
I got myself some of these. I don't know if anybody likes Madre. Usually it's terrible. I used to drink Heineken quite a lot, but I don't know if anybody's a beer drinker. Heineken's shit. They've changed it now. If you drink Heineken, say for example you drink a crate of beer, you drink a crate of Heineken, I feel like shit because the amount of sugar and like glucose and stuff they put in it. But if I drink a crate of Carlsberg or a crate of Madre, I feel perfectly fine. Strange. So fuck Heineken, I'd say that.
Carlsberg's it's a little bit heavy though, very fizzy, very fucking fizzy.
It is very fizzy, yeah. That's. I mean, I've seen that when I saw Darko as well. I can see why he sticks to the light beers all day because it's a lot lighter for your stomach and everything.
I prefer the light beers as well. I'm with him on that.
But yeah, so the Vines beer garden for the one time I was meant to go twice. I was meant to be at the last show with you guys, but for the first time you were in, because this was after all these cancellations and shit. Because of for those cunts that used that weed whacker at that fucking show, everything kind of got a bit fucked. Rise got a lot of shows cancelled. You guys venue things and council things and bullshit like that. But then we're in Vines, and for the first one was the 8th of May, where you're against Antonio Gonzalez, and it was the first time I'd ever seen him as well. So it's the thing with Kumite is it introduces me to a lot of people. Even on the last show, there was like a guy called Rourke I'd never seen before. He was fucking good as well. There was a guy who was against... Who was he against? He had a Kumite t-shirt on and he was against Will Cruz. What was his...
Max Maguire.
I'd never seen him before either, and I was like, he's fucking good too. And Will Cruz is another person I hadn't seen until Kumite. So there's all these different guys, but you were against Antonio Gonzalez, so what was it like wrestling him? His first death match too, I think.
He was somebody that I suggested should do the shows. Because he's a deathmatch fan. I've known him for years. I was in one of his first matches. He was trained by one of my best friends, Joseph Connors. And so he's got a high level of skill and ability because Joe trains, like, it's hard. His school is hard, you know, he works them hard. And Antonio's got, you know, he's got a lot of talent. He can do lots of different things in wrestling. So when he declared any kind of interest in doing it, I thought immediately, like, okay, now he could. What I actually thought was, I think we could have a fucking awesome match.
You did, and you did as well.
So I went to Matt and said that I thought maybe Antonio should do something. And a lot of people have come up to me since I started doing death matches and said, I would quite like to do that. Like, how do I get into it? And to a lot of them, I've said, well, don't get into it because I don't think it's a good idea for you. Like, you don't want to like get hurt and this, that, the other. There's a lot of people that I just don't think would be very good at it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know. But Antonio, I thought immediately, I think he could do something. Matt remembered him as a skinny little kid, so when I mentioned it, he was like, but Antonio.
He's pretty built now. Like, Jesus Christ,
fucking
fucking
hench. So I showed Matt some pictures, and he was like, okay. Spoke to Antonio. Antonio was well up for it. So then it was like, okay, we had that was the show that we had Alex Colon over.
Yes.
So he was taking on Darko.
Yep. Great
they
match.
Fucking smashed so many light tubes. It was unfucking believable in that match. What was the match before that on that show?
I am going to have to look that up. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll find it.
It was Flint versus Lou. Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Lou. That was when it's heel Lou Nixon, who is for my money, and obviously just being a cunt because I'm a cunt, liking the British top team. Love Lou Nixon and love Darwin and love Brett Semtex. So yeah, Lou comes in and he's going to do the light tubes and he's doing headlocks and shit. Love that, brilliant.
Yeah, I always like that shit.
If there's anything that's going to get over in death matches, it's somebody that hates death matches.
Exactly. So Lou was there for the first time and he was facing Clint. I knew they'd have a good match. And I thought, you know what? If I suggested that Matt puts me and Antonio on to kind of warm up the death matches. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I know that we could do 15 solid minutes of like hybrid wrestling / deathmatch wrestling. Bring out his flippy shit, show what he could do, but at the same time, go for it, right? And I think that's probably the death match that I'm proudest of. Probably the one that I enjoyed the most as well, because it was the first time that it was like my responsibility.
Yeah.
Like Tomby is, you know, he's not been on the biggest shows, but he's done lots of like good standard local, like me, myself, good standard local shows, and he's done more deathmatch stuff in those shows than I have. So he's got a decent amount of experience doing it. And obviously Joe and Darko and Clint are all very well seasoned.
Yeah.
But for this match, I was only 4 in, and I was like, I've got to make sure that he knows what he's doing and he's safe.
Yeah.
And I've got to like live up to the people are starting to know who I am and like ask for my matches and stuff. So I wanted to live up to expectations, and I think, and I'm usually pretty critical of myself, but I've watched that match back a few times, and I think we did it. I think it was a really good match.
It was excellent.
So
those small tubes are a bit dangerous. The small tubes. I don't know where the fuck they got all them from. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Fuck those tubes.
Yeah.
They cut me open hard way so many times. Like, I have 3 massive gashes down the top of my head. Fuck those tubes.
When I brought tubes up for the second show, I tried my best to not make them that small, even if they are T8s. The thing is I see a lot of people now bringing stuff. I assume it's just the Outlaws find them from every nook and cranny of the UK. Is people get T12s, which I find bizarre because I've never fucking been able to find a T12 in my fucking life. And up here.
So, we've got a wrestler called Franco Fate in the Midlands who's starting to break out. He's another one of these guys that I guarantee you'll see on a Kumite show and you go, he's really fucking good in the future.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot, because what Kumite tends to do is take the best guys in the Midlands and the best like deathmatch guys from around, right, and then bring them together. And Franco's one of those guys. He's one of the best in the Midlands, and he works in a Walker's Crisp factory, I think, as a shoot job, and he's got tons of different size tubes.
Ooh,
so
lovely.
I think there's loads of D12s in there, like that will be at the next Kumite show. There's like hundreds and hundreds of them. We're stocked up now. We are
good
stocked up for tubes for a while.
I've got 86 in my attic. Yeah.
The problem with those fucking short ones is they don't shatter. They fucking splinter. Mm-hmm. So they just go into you every fucking where. It's a tough fucking.
Back to the season's the broadcast. I was gonna say, and then the next match I do have one of his t-shirts that I got off him in fucking Rise, which is Michael Caden. Fucking a new t-shirt. Buy one of them off his Instagram. I don't think they're on the Deathmatch Outlaws. But you're against Caden in like a garden, Devil's Garden thing, which was just done by Dean. So I have to give Dean a shout out because he'll moan if I don't because he's Dean. So what was that? That match was fucking. That was the show I was actually at. I was actually at this show. The same show with yourself. First time I met you, met Callum Butcher, met Caden and things. So how was that match with nettles and trellises and all sorts of shit?
I really enjoyed it. Obviously, like Caden's another one of those guys who, when I was coming in, I was like, right, these are the guys I want to wrestle. He's done it all. He's been trained by some of the best. He had lots of good advice, lots of brilliant ideas. Like, you know, would sometimes. Like, I love wrestlers who will question something when I say something. They will go, right, why? And you know, and then we can kind of work towards some. You know, it just makes you think about wrestling in a different way because he's got so much fucking experience doing it.
It's like a learning tree. Even if you just sit around him for long enough, have a beer. Caden's sitting talking, you're just like, yeah. It's same as like Joe and Darko and things like that. The Outlaws that have done it for a long, long time. You just sit and listen to them and they know what they're fucking talking about because they've done it for so long.
Yeah, but Caden's like a fucking encyclopedia of wrestling in a totally different way to anybody else. Like, he's just fucking knows everything. Like, I'm good mates with Saxon Huxley, who
was on Rise.
WWE.
That was the first time I'd ever seen him. And I wasn't best pleased because I was the British top team mark, and I was like, oh fuck! I was like, fucking, what are you doing, batter him? But I'd never seen him. I'd heard of his name, but I only watched Rise from maybe like 2019, 18 onwards. So I would have missed him when he went to WWE, and I never watched NXT UK because that was my first time ever seeing him. But I assume based on the response and everything, he's very, very fucking good.
Oh yeah. He's my dude. He is fucking brilliant. He's like, his promos are like nobody else. His like his style and his moves just aren't like anybody else. He's brilliant. But he's really good friends with Caden.
Okay.
So when Caden came to the show, he was like, "You're friends with Sax, aren't you?" So immediately I was like, right, okay, we're good. You know?
Yeah, okay.
I knew we'd go and have a good match because you know, it's. I imagine for somebody who's as seasoned as him and been let down a fair few times in his career, you can't always go to a new company and trust everybody there, right? And especially with me having done, 4 death matches at that time, did we say?
Yeah, before.
Like, you know, he's putting his life in my hands to a certain extent. So for him to be as giving as he was, and for him to, you know, giving me as much feedback as he did, it was very, very much appreciated. Yeah,
perfect, man. I think I'd love that match, and there was tubes and nettles and fucking, and that was the hottest day of the year supposedly. We were out in it all day drinking, but it seemed okay. And then I got stuck for 13 hours trying to get back to fucking Derby. But I'll look up Saxon Huxley's matches. Would you recommend watching? Obviously, you're friends with them anyway. But I mean, would you recommend watching pre-WWE stuff or just watch NXT stuff or just any of it?
I would recommend watching some of the Rise stuff because he's brilliant there.
Okay.
I've actually had a few matches with him.
Okay. All right, I'll check out one of them. I'll check out them just because when I saw him, obviously I was annoyed because I was like, "Fuck! They're ruining the celebration of a new Rise and everything." I think I was the only person there like had a shoot British Top Team T-shirt on, which made the night entertaining for me. But yeah, when I saw him come out, the response he got was huge, and people were telling me about him. I just never seen him before, so no, definitely I'll check them out. And then, what else did we have? Then we got the last one, which I've reviewed. By the time this is up, the show will be out tonight or tomorrow. It was a fucking insane match, which I would say is probably my favourite Kumite match. Was the last Blood and Thunder, supposedly. I don't know why I thought it was that. I don't know. I can't. The thing is I wrote it down, but I can't find the picture that says that, and I'm like, have I made that up? Like, I don't know.
I think it's called that on IWTV. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. So.
Something, yeah, and I was like, Blood and Thunder? As in, like, reference to, like, the Thor movie?
Maybe.
Fuck
Who knows?
A terrible film as well. Anyway, what was I going to say? So it was, you were with Joe, big fucking Joe, and you were it was meant to be fucking Cologne. Then it was meant to be Clint, and obviously this is the same time as the TNT GSW tour's on. And then it ended up being Antonio Gonzalez, so I thought fucking was phenomenal in that match. And it was him and Darko against yourself and Joe. So how was that match? Because when it just started and you've all got tubes in hand, I was like, here we fucking go. It was excellent.
So first I thought I was going to get to wrestle Cologne. So
that would have been amazing.
Exciting. But then he had like the plane tickets that he had bought for him were like leaving at the same time as the fucking Kumite show.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't fucking do it. Not his fault at all.
No, yeah, exactly.
He's like, him and Matt get on really well, and like he would have liked to have been there, but it's what happens. So then they replaced him with Clint, and then Clint did a full weekend of like into the week as well of deathmatch shows, and ended up like getting banged up and whatnot.
Yeah.
So then it was like, right, on the day, who do we replace him with? And obviously, Antonio's the go-to guy, I would say, because he's trying to make a name for himself. This is a good chance for him to get in there with some of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joe, I know he wanted a match with Darko and Joe as soon as possible, and he's got it now.
Yeah.
And we just decided, like, Big fucking Joe is like a fucking rolling ball of fucking chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's very little you can do to stop that tornado once it starts blowing. So we were just like, we're just going to have to throw everything at it. And we tried to pace it out so that, you know, doing the kind of the technical side of wrestling bit where you where you're structuring it, you're like, right, so this is happening here, so we'll close this down a little bit here, and then we'll spotlight this again. So we were trying to give it some kind of like, we didn't want it to be too much, like an overload, like you can't keep your eye. So we wanted it to be more like a tennis match, like bang, that's happening there, then suddenly bang, that's happening there.
I would kind of equate it to similar to a lot of Japanese tag team death matches, where two guys break off, two guys break in the ring, and usually they kind of separate them where you can. Yeah, it's like a tennis match. You're going back and forward. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that was the kind of structure that we've. And then obviously, like, we'd kind of integrate, like, so that, like, Darko and Antonio would have the sticks to hit me with. So
that looked nasty. That looked fucking nasty. I saw fuck me. I was like, holy fuck, you're back alright from that. I was like, Jesus.
Sucked. It fucking sucked. Darko hit me right in the back of the fucking head with one of them as well.
Oh man, that was the thing I liked. Is my favourite spot of that match was Gonzalez and Darko run at you with the tubes. You go right through it and give them the big double clothesline. That was probably the biggest like pop of the thing. But that match was. I felt sorry for that bench. I was like, oh no, they're not going to get chucked at the Vines, are they?
Vines apparently have like raves and stuff there where they do a lot more damage.
Oh, okay, that's
so
fine.
they've actually been quite nice about it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's the sort of thing where, like, I assume, well, at least when I was there, deathmatch fans drink. They are making a lot of fucking money from the amount of fucking drunkard, degenerate people that go to deathmatch shows like myself. So I'm pretty sure a little bit of a bench being broken is the least of their worries, to be honest.
And that beer is relatively cheap there, so people are getting through it like one-o, right? Like pint after pint after pint. So they actually end up making more money through selling it cheaper because people just get through it, right?
Yep.
So I fucking loved that fucking match, mostly because I love working with Darko and Joe.
Yeah.
Like, Antonio's my guy. I'm so glad he's fucking doing this. Like, me and him could have matches anywhere, anytime. I fucking love it. But Darko and Joe are just two guys. Like, Joe, I've never met anybody more, like, just fucking... He never stops. He never stops. Like, if he's not beating the crap out of himself, he's doing one of his two jobs. And if he's not doing that, he's with his kids. And it never stops. Yeah. And I've never seen somebody as relentless as him. It's fucking crazy.
I've said that to him before. Cause I've done an interview with Joe and I was like, when do you sleep? Like, when do you actually sleep? Because you're so busy all the time, man. It's insane.
And you think he'd be like a ratty fucking...
He's always happy. He's always happy. Yeah.
So, Joe, like, and on top of that, like, he's, like, his off-the-cuff thinking in the middle of a match and just the things that he does, he's the best we've got in this country. And Darko, like, is just one of the coolest guys, and his style, he doesn't work like anybody else.
No, yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's just that old-school vibe to him, where he's like, he's doing a different kind of deathmatch. Like, he doesn't work to other people's pace at all.
Yeah.
Like, he's got his own pace. And whenever you have a match with Darko, it ends up being that pace because he's just like so natural and so great.
Yeah, exactly.
He just carried it through.
And he can fucking drink. and he could fucking drink for fucking the UK. My Christ. So yeah, no, both those guys are sort of the sort of deathmatch. The UK deathmatch owes a lot to those two guys.
Agreed.
In the last few years, definitely, pre-pandemic. And then what was I going to say? So this is another thing. So I don't know. I don't want to put ideas in Fletcher Malachi's head or anything. There should be a fucking Kumite tournament. Do a fucking tournament. I'll message Malachi anyway. Just do a fucking tournament, because I think that for me, any of the shows I go to are deathmatch shows. I appreciate people do family friendly wrestling and everything. Not for me. I only want to see. I don't want a whole show. It doesn't necessarily need to be blood and violence, but I want at least one deathmatch per show that I go to. I think Kumite would do a fucking excellent little deathmatch tournament because there's enough guys that you could bring in and things like that have been in Kumite and that could come forward. I think it'd be excellent.
I think now that the season's up of outside wrestling, when they've got a venue, especially a venue that you can get a few more seats in than you can get into that beer garden, then a tournament looks like a much more likely thing, right? Because it's going to be about the wages of the people on the show, and it's going to be about how many weapons they've got available to them. Yeah. So there are lots of things that you've got to think about before you do the tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it'll definitely work best in like 250 seater building where you can store things here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. So I don't think it's out of the question at all. I think it's in fact very fucking likely in the future, but probably not on an outside show.
No, probably not on an outside show. But yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if I'll put this in the thing with that. I've got my license now to run shows. So at some point next year, whenever I get things sorted out and everything after the Christmas break and after the fucking nightmare that'll probably be those fucking drunkard nightmare that'll be those February shows and for Rise, I'll be trying to do something and hopefully be able to get yourself and people up here to the horrible hellscape that is Edinburgh. Which is I hate fucking Edinburgh, man. It makes me physically sick. So it'd be interesting, but I do have two places that have said yeah thus far. It's just basically getting. I need like somebody for you guys who've got them in Kumite, basically like on hand medic. I need somebody to do that for like relatively like decent money and stuff, and have things, everything all professional and stuff, and rent a ring and all this sort of shit. But that's what I was going to say. Cut back to the thing. So for you, would you rather do no ring or would you rather do ring, or is it just different?
I would rather do ring because I think like no ring is a lot of fun, but there are certain limitations to no ring that you can't get away from. Yeah. Like, it is much, much harder to bump on a concrete floor than it is a ring any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, immediately, you're already putting some kind of limitation on your match. Now, on the one hand, that means you've got to be creative. Yep. You've got to think of ways to work around that. So that inspires you to, like, But on the other hand, you are aware of it, that we can't go here because this isn't, and it just, there are certain elements that you can't always bring to a no-ring match that you could do a ring match. But, having said that, there's nothing I like more in my matches anyway than an outside brawl, so fucking bring no-ring on as far as I'm... No-ring is just like an outside-the-ring brawl for 20 minutes, which I'm fucking game with.
Exactly. And plus, you see that in a lot of matches anyway. There'd be like a trope where, 16 seconds they're out the ring brawling anyway, so it's like, why even have the ring sometimes? I mean, obviously, no-ring shows are an acquired taste. I love no-ring shows. I think they're fucking excellent. And plus, I would imagine as well, for putting them on, they're a fucking lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Go on to rent rings and ring crews and shit like that.
That's part of the reason Kumite didn't do it at first, because the buildings that we're going to take us didn't have very high ceilings, and the cost of hiring and all those kind of things. It was like, if we're doing it DIY, then let's just throw up, just go for it on the floor and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, for anything, like, for when people bring weapons, like, I always like to bring weapons because I think that light tubes are fucking expensive and shows are fucking expensive enough. Or stupid things like that fucking face hugger thing that I brought and put thumbtacks over it and shit like that. But, like, for you, would you rather just people just brought shit, or would you rather have a plan and ask people to bring stuff? Like, would you, because it's like when everything's just there, it's kind of like last minute when people bring weapons and stuff. Would you rather have like more time to plan, or are you just happy with it being there?
So I think when you are working with other people's weapons, you're limited to their imagination.
Yeah.
And when you pre-plan, you have your own to use as well.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I like a mixture of the two. I think matches should, especially death matches, should have an element of spontaneity about them. So using a fan's weapon, like a face hugger, for example, is fucking awesome, right? But I think, you know, there are certain like things towards the end of the match, big spots, stuff like that. Like the trellis in the garden, Devil's Garden match that I went through. Like, as soon as he told me there was going to be a trellis with nettles hanging on the back, I was like, oh, I'll get through that easy.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, I like to have a little bit of time to prep for big spots, but I think using other things as well, you know, I'm game for fucking anything. I mean, this is an open and explorative fucking art, isn't it? Like, why the fuck just, you know, we use what's there.
We use what's there, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's certain things that I think that shouldn't be used, such as pencils and things like that. Like, you remember that fucking Pondo bump where he gets lead stuck in his arse and things. There's certain things like that I think are a little bit too far. Razor wire, I think's a bit fucking over the top. But I mean, you're probably never going to see. I'm sure Darko took one of them at one of the Rise shows. It was like a little panel of it, and I was like, oh my god, not razor wire. But more or less, most of the stuff's kind of. You know what you're doing? I've seen a lot more recently, and I don't know if they're going to get used in the UK's flower pots.
Flower pots?
Flower pots, yeah.
Smart. I like that.
I've seen that it's like I think there's like, put them in like a bag, all these flower pots in a bag, broke them up with a chair, and it's just like broken flower. It looks fucking nasty, but it's like a cool visual of like flower pots breaking and stuff. And
well, if you haven't seen it before in Britain, you might just fucking now, mate, because...
my main first memory of ever seeing them was there was that match between Zandig and Wife Beater in that CCW match where they fucking what was his name? Frank Talent came in and was like, call the match off. Where Wife Beater's got a fucking plant pot on his head and Zandig batters it senseless with a chair, and you're like, fuck me. But I've not seen them since then, but they used them in the Australia show. I saw some clips of that for NHB in Australia, and the plant pots and shit, so it's just... you've got to try and, because there's only so much sort of like tubes and stuff you can use before people want to see something. For me, I want to see light tubes all day, every day, but that's just me. I know I'm very, very different sort of mindset than most people, but... What was I going to say? Oh yeah, for the last time when I asked you, we were talking about like movies and stuff. So I assume you, like me, are more or less like sort of a horror fan as well. Like a lot of the people that like death matches are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love horror.
What, do you have any? What was I going to say? Do you have any like favourite horror films that you put over? Because we're going to try and ask everybody this as well.
So the first horror films that I fell in love with when I was a kid were the Evil Dead 1 and 2.
Yep.
Absolutely fucking loved them. Made me piss myself laughing. Me and my little brother used to sneak them upstairs to watch them secretly.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's a little bit of slapstick humour there that I think you sometimes see at Kumite shows with like the silly oversized like light tube weapons and the like the face hugger with the tack. There's an element of comedy in those films that I think you find in deathmatch sometimes. That
exactly.
Dig.
That fucking facehugger, man, it's just sat in my house for so long, and I was like, I'll just take it to a show. I didn't intend to put tax on it, but I thought, that's kind of funny. I don't think anybody's ever seen one of them, so I was like, fuck it, let's bring it along. Why not?
No, I'm glad you did, but I don't think Tomby is.
I've got it up on my wall. It's still got his blood all over it. Because I was like, in my head, I was like, somebody could swing it, but I was like, I don't know, because it's kind of rubbery. I don't know how well it would. I don't know. Fuck knows what I was going to say, but for like horror movies and stuff, and I think deathmatch is very, very like joined, and I don't even know how that works. Everybody loves horror and violence and blood and gore and stuff, so you find a lot of the same sort of people like the same sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think I do tend to. I love horror. I love like as a genre. There's very little in it that I don't like. You know, there are films obviously that are shite, but generally I like any kind of horror. But my favourite horrors tend to be the ones with like a slight comedic element. So Return of the Living Dead is quite funny. The Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a funny film, but it's also like a pretty scary, nasty. Not scary, but you know, as a kid, you would go fucking
Well,
shit.
I mean, when I was younger, I got introduced to horror movies when I was maybe ever so slightly too young to be watching things like The Shining and that when I was 9. And I think it might have... my cat's fucking asleep over there. What's your dog called again, man?
This one's called Sky.
Oh,
She's like 14 or 15 or something.
fucking hell. That's to say, my cat's just sort of lazing about because the heating's on, because it's fucking pissing down here. But I was going to say, when I was younger, like, I would watch the original It, the TV movie, and there's a bit where Pennywise, like, in retrospect, it looks terrible, comes out the shower. But when I was a kid, I was scared to go in the shower because I thought a clown was going to come out the shower and attack me and eat me. But now watching back, I'm like, it's funny. But
I tend to also like, I find that foreign horror films tend to be able to build the tension in a way that American and British horror films don't always fucking do. Like, they've got a knack of like really like amping up the anxiety. I fucking love that shit as well. Like the early Wreck films, for example.
Yes.
The first one I was like, shit.
Have you ever seen a Japanese film called Audition?
Yeah.
That's a fucking weird. There's somebody in a bag and they're rolling around. You're like, what the fuck is this? I think it's the same with a lot of Japanese deathmatch stuff. As I think that they're a lot more scary and a lot more violent than a lot of American, or because it's just, I don't know, it's a different culture. But I would hopefully at some point, I would love to see you fucking go over to Japan, man, because that'd be fucking insane. I'd love to see a lot of the fucking UK guys go over to Japan, because that's the sort of like holy grail. I'd love to go to Japan myself as well of deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could speak for most of the UK guys when I say we'd fucking love to do that.
Yeah, man, it'd be at some point soon. For the amount that death matches have been built up in the last couple of years, I think it's only a matter of time before people are in fucking Japan, and then it'll be an even bigger spotlight in the UK scene and stuff for that. What was I going to say? What else do I have? Oh yeah, what's the next show that you're going to be on for people if want to check it out and come see you?
So there's a good chance that on the coming Friday, this is coming out tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it should be on Monday, yeah.
So the coming Friday, I can't remember what the date is, but there's a Halloween House of Pain show in Nottingham.
Ooh.
And there's going to be a street fight at the end of that show, and apparently that somebody might be turning up to get violent.
Good man. I love Halloween. Halloween's not necessarily the films, but Halloween in general is a very big sort of like massive like thing. Did you watch that Jeffrey Dahmer thing?
I did.
Very, very, very good.
I tend to watch any kind of like serial killer reenactment thing, mostly just to see how good the actor is.
It's a strange thing.
Like I watched all that Mindhunter, and any part of the show where it was like the detectives talking, I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then the serial killer comes in, like,
exactly. You're like, enough of the that Mindhunter. I've got the book somewhere of the John Douglas guy, and I will say, if anybody wants to read that book, it's very, very good. However, the first 3 chapters are a drag because it's basically him going, man, I was great. I was the best. I was, and it's just him putting himself over, which is fine. But he's like, I was the best at school. I was the smartest at high school. I was the best at this. I was the best at that. And you're like, right, I get it, but like, fucking like, tone it down a bit. Yeah, but Mindhunter. What did you think of the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, though?
I thought it was really good. So I like things that aren't always at like a frenetic pace. Like, not everything has to be like fucking 24, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I really like that they, like, the quieter moments in the Dharma thing were the moments that I thought were like the hardest hitting things, right?
Yeah.
Where nothing's happening and he's just kind of sitting in this little world that he's created for himself, and you're like, fucking hell, this guy's a fucking lunatic.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was brilliantly acted. I thought the script was really good. I understand why the family's getting a bit pissed off by it over and over again.
That's the thing though, it's like, I mean, how long do you leave things? It's like, there's always going to be, there's like 900 million movies about like Charles Manson. It's just, it's part of like, the only thing I couldn't believe, and maybe it's just because like me and my best friend are weirdos who like serial killer documentaries and things like that. The amount of people that like I was at school with that were like writing things on Facebook and whatever, like, oh my, I was like, how the fuck do you not know who Jeffrey Dahmer is? Like, surely everybody at like of any sort of level of pop culture must know who he is. But then again, maybe just people don't watch the same sort of sick, weird shit that I do.
Well, I do. So,
Yeah.
so we're both fucked with that.
Yeah, man. Did you like the American Horror Story stuff that Evan Peters was from? Do you watch much of that?
Right, so I watched the first season and thought it was a fucking drag. I thought it was all over the place.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, 6 were... But then, I think some of the seasons were good. I think there was the one called Roanoke I quite enjoyed. And
Where it was like, it turned into a different thing. Where it was like a TV show, I was like, yes! I love that.
It's just concepts that I like that. There were some of them in there. The witch one was a bit...
I didn't watch. I've never seen the full first season. I've only seen a couple of them. Did you ever see the latest season, the very last one they did?
No.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen. I'll only just talk about it a little bit if you ever want to watch it. It's one of the guys, he goes to this little town, he's a writer, and he's got writer's block. And he meets the guy who plays Jeffrey Dahmer, Evan Peters, and Evan Peters gives him this little black pill. And he's like, if you're creative, you take this black pill, it does something to your mind, and he bangs out a book in like a night. He's sitting there frantically typing and everything. But if you're uncreative and you take this pill, it basically turns you into like a vampire. Well, into like a sort of zombie. But if you want to keep taking the pill and being creative, you need to drink people's blood. It's very fucked up and weird, and it's very slow, and it's very eerie and odd. I'd highly recommend watching that. It's very, very good.
I probably will watch that. That sounds good. That's the kind of concept shit that I'm talking about, where I'm like, okay, I can get into that. Yeah.
It's like it does something with like the iron levels in your blood or something, so you need blood all the time, and they get like they get a woman to like make their fangs bigger so they can bite people quicker and stuff. It's very very good. It's very, very good. But I was going to say, the only sort of Halloween movies, and I did this one year, and I'd recommend never ever to do it because I was in the depths of despair, was watch all 6 Paranormal Activity movies in a row on my own. I was, oh, Christ.
I mean, you would have to be
because in my head, they're my least favourite movies, and I thought, right, okay, I'll sit here one day and I'll watch them all on my own. In a row.
You're just punishing yourself.
A masochist. Fucking, it was genuinely, man, I've never been like, I was like nearly in tears. I was like, this is so boring and so bad, because I find with like movies like that, like Annabelle and Conjuring movies and things like that, they're terrible. They're so boring, but they make so much money.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen
I suppose a man that bleeds for money can't take the piss out of you for being a masochist.
I suppose, yeah, but that's the thing, it's like, a lot of people don't like deathmatch wrestling, and I can understand why. Like, some of my friends are there like, why are you watching that fucking shit? And I'm like, because it's an art form. Nobody has to like all the same sort of shit. I would never ever criticise somebody. I'd maybe criticise somebody for liking Paranormal Activity, because they're shit. But like, I feel that everybody's got their own entitlement for that. What was I going to say? Hopefully, next month maybe, or I hope, fingers crossed, that we're maybe going to get one more Kumite show before the end of the year. I hope so. Is there anybody that you've not had a chance to work with, Kumite-wise, that you would want to work if there was another show coming up this year? Is any names or that would come to mind if you were had the pencil, as they say? Is there anybody that you would want to go against?
Voodoo Queen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be good. That'd be awesome.
I've already pitched that match.
that'd be really, really good. What, like blood and violence, or just like?
I think a certain amount of blood and violence.
Yeah, because she did tax at the last thing as well.
If she doesn't mind getting her hands dirty.
Yeah, oh fucking hell yeah, Voodoo Queen's fucking awesome. What was I going to say? What else was I going to move on to? That's something else. So for have you got any like other for that merch thing coming out? I'll put a picture of it up here. That's probably one of the best T-shirts I've seen in a while. There we go. There we go. The Nettle fucking King. That's an awesome fucking T-shirt, man.
Big bold writing with a big fucking in the middle.
Yeah, it's what you want.
I'm only going to release T-shirts from this point on that you can't wear to family shows. I've decided. Fuck it.
the thing I always find is like if I wear deathmatch T-shirts all the time because I can more or less wear what I want to work. A lot of people, they look at it and they think, what the fuck's that? But a lot of the things I find with deathmatch merchandise is if you didn't know what it was, you would think it was a band.
Yeah.
It's not as if it's like a John Cena T-shirt or they're not actual. It's weird to describe. It's like they're not really wrestling T-shirts. they look something different, and you wouldn't really know what it was. But
Agreed. They're my favourite. Like the T-shirt you're wearing now, for example, is a great example of that. Like fits it anywhere. I love. Yeah, I totally agree. That's why my friend Luke, when he sent me, and he sent me that design for free as well. He said, I was just trying stuff out earlier. Here you go. Here's this one.
Awesome.
It's a complimentary T-shirt winging its way to him as we speak.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's fucking awesome. But I was going to say, I was just talking more about like fucking horror shit in movies. Are you going to see that new fucking terrible dog shit pile of crap that's coming out called Pray for the Devil? I'm going to be seeing that opening night. I love me some Exorcist movies. Because they're shit.
Pray for the Devil.
You know, seen it?
So I don't mind Exorcist style movies, like especially the earlier ones. And I got to about The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and now I feel the same way about them that I feel about like period dramas. It's always going to be the same shit.
Yep.
It's going to be a woman getting a corset pulled on. It's going to be somebody talking about a fucking dowry. Like, and that's kind of how I feel about those films. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's already kind of there. So
they're always terrible.
If it was on TV, I'd probably watch it. Like, I'd leave it on, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
I'll be seeing it opening night, and it'll be shit. And I'm looking forward to it. It'll be sort of exorcism movies and stuff. No, I do like the original Exorcist and things like that. I'd say Exorcist 3 is a very, very underrated film. Have you seen that?
Yes, the greatest jump scare of all fucking time.
Oh, yes, yeah, with the fucking... Yeah.
Yeah, number one.
Excellent as well. But I would say I want to bring this guy to a show. Oh, wait, I'll try and get him just now. If I could put something on him, or bring him to a show. Bring a little Chucky to a show, put some tax on him. I don't know, my girlfriend got me this for one of my birthdays, and I was like, okay, but she's like, I'm not allowed to have him in the bedroom because she get too scared. But like, hopefully I'll bring Chucky to one of the shows at some point.
You should. It's rad as fuck.
That's the only thing is I was wanting to go to, because there's obviously a lot of Halloween shows, but I mean, you could bring Chucky to any show, I suppose. What is it you're drinking just now anyway, man?
Right, so there's I found this at university. There's a bourbon called Western Gold that they sell at Lidl.
Okay. I think I've seen it.
5-year cask bourbon whiskey. I usually say bourbon.
No, so do I. Sometimes you're like, yeah, they're biscuits, and you're like, yeah, I say that as well all the time.
But it's the like, if you're not drinking Jack Daniels is okay. If you're not drinking, like, this is the best one I found. I think it's like it goes down so fucking smoothly. So yeah, Western Gold Lidl.
Perfect, man. I was say, what was I going to say? I'm trying to think if there's anything else to move on to. But yeah, I'll probably just wrap up there, man. No, but thanks for fucking thanks for doing this again, by the way, and actually have it all recorded now for tomorrow. Have a little intro. I'll need to get somebody to do a logo as well. Pain in the arse. Try to get people to fucking do things. Because the thing is, it's like my missus does like art. Like, she did art at university, and I always ask him like, "Can you do this?" She's like, "Nah." I'm like, I'm like, why not? I'm like, just please, just do it for free. But
no, I'm happy to do it, mate. I'm happy to do it. I'm always happy to talk about wrestling and deathmatch wrestling. I think I said to you last time, it's nice to have a conversation with somebody in the wrestling business doing a podcast or something that isn't like, so why do you do deathmatch? Like what doesn't it hurt? Why do you want to be pierced with stuff?
It's
nice to have a conversation with somebody who loves this shit as well. So
well, that's one thing I was going to say for you, because I'll always put over Matt and Malachi and Fletch for their commentary, which I think is getting better and better. Have you ever? I hate deathmatch commentary on shows where they don't know what they're talking about, and they sell everything like, oh my, and you're like, you've seen a lot of this, like commentate on it like it's a real thing. But would you ever want to do commentary or anything like that yourself?
Yes, I would. I've already asked Matt. No, so I've been living in Doncaster,
okay,
and Matt lives in Derby. And it's a pain in the fucking arse to get from Doncaster to anywhere, really, especially not driving like myself. So I now have moved back to Nottingham, which puts me one bus away from Derby, or 2 buses away from Derby, which means that I'm now available when they're getting pissed and doing commentary. So hopefully on I think Matt said he will let me do like the first half of a show and see, before the deathmatch stuff starts kicking off, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I'll probably be doing that in the very near future.
That'd be fucking awesome. I've always wanted to get into that, try to do commentary myself, sitting there ranting and raving and drinking and whatever. But that's the thing is, I did not expect that Rise show to be up so quickly. I was gobsmacked. I was like, how the fuck is this on IWTV so far? I assume it's the regime change and whoever's in charge of Rise, kayfabe, has now made massive changes, so now it's on IWTV. But they got fucking Tom Campbell to do it. I really, really like Tom Campbell. But I think
Tom's
that
been doing Rise for a
long time.
Right?
Yeah. I only found out about him through that. Do you watch like Cultaholic and things like that?
Yeah.
I only found out about him through that.
When it was What Culture,
yes,
like they brought a lot of guys from House of Pain, which was my school, down to do the shows. So it was Joe Connors, who, as you know, like a good friend, Gabriel Kidd, who went off to do Japan. He was on those shows. One of my best mates, Lucas Archer. I debuted against Lucas Archer. He was on those shows. Yeah. So, like, that What Culture thing actually just ended up including tons of my friends. So I kind of learned about it all from that. And to be fair, I think I still watch Cultaholic from time to time. I think there's some really good fucking content there, and I think some of those lads are really funny. And it's nice to have fucking people talking positively about wrestling. Like, they're not always shitting on everything.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't have a Twitter account, because I will lambast and rip apart films all day and every day and whatever. But for wrestling, I think wrestling's an art form that I love, that I've loved since I was a kid. That I always think positively, no matter if there's bad things happen or whatever. But I would say Cultaholic. I just recently looked through some of their stuff. Their latest podcast's 3 hours and 40 minutes long. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I think my shows run long. I'm like, fucking hell. But the thing is I always think that as well. Is obviously there's loads and loads of them all talking. But like Ross, when he used to do the King Ross thing, I used to piss myself laughing.
Funny dude.
Yeah, fucking funny. Fucking good times, man. But yeah, but I mean, for that was what happened to What Culture Pro. You turned into... What did it turn into?
I think they had What Culture Pro turned into I can't even remember what the fucking ended up calling.
Neither can I.
It was shite. So look, I don't mind, like, I love all fucking wrestling. If wrestling's shit, I still love it. Yeah. If I can enjoy a bad match and a good match, there's nothing about wrestling that I don't like. Like, it's literally my first love.
Yeah, right? Me too, man.
So I will accept any kind of wrestling, good or bad. Really, it's just a fucking passion of mine, and that's why I love those What Culture lads. And I think what happened to their show was that they had a management company that just wasn't paying them right, wasn't like giving them the respect that they fucking earned for basically carrying their shows.
Yeah, exactly.
So they went off and did their own thing. So then they had to change the name of the company to whatever it turned into, and it kind of just fell off over time. Like, people stopped attending. I know the numbers were massively down. They were still trying to book big stars for it, but they went through a period where they were booking Angle and Mysterio.
That's the thing is, I find it's I like 1PW, and I would say the 1PW was the same as FWA and the What Culture stuff, where I think that their downfall was, not saying that bringing in big talent's a bad thing, not saying that bringing in big guys is a bad thing, but I think if you do that all the time, people expect it. And then when you don't bring them in, you've got all your homegrown guys, no one's going to turn up because, oh, Rey Mysterio's not there. But then, even though the wrestling's better, they just want to see stars. So it's kind of like, it's the same thing that happens sort of slightly with like ECW, where like every single show they do a surprise. Every show's got to have a surprise. We've got to have somebody come in at every single show, and you're like, it gets old eventually, and you want to try and build your own guys, and then it just falls apart. So there's nothing wrong with outside talent. There's nothing wrong with bringing in Kurt Angle, but it's so much money. You know what I mean? It's so much money. Like that 1PW show, I wanted to see one match on that show, and that was the Deathmatch guys, and that was all I wanted to see. As much as I like Christopher Daniels and as much as I like Colt Cabana and stuff, I wouldn't watch that. Not for me. But if Jack and Iceman and fucking Joe, and well, Joe wasn't there obviously, but then we got Will Cruz and Tyler Devlin, I'd watch that because I actually appreciate that sort of wrestling. But hey ho. But anyway, man, I'll end it just now and I'll let you get back to your, I was going to say Sunday evening. And but thanks for doing this again, man. And then I'll get this up for tomorrow, and then hopefully I'll be able to see you before the end of the year.
Hope so.
And I'll find that Kobayashi thing, and when I find it, I'll send you a picture and I'll keep it somewhere so I can bring it down for you when I bring you that Pondo book. That's no worries, man. The amount of times for that No Holds Barred have sent me like shit that's like extra stuff and things. I think genuinely just by mistake probably. So yeah, but no worries, man. No, but thanks very much. But I'll go just now and I'll let you get back to your evening, man.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much, mate.
No worries, man. Cheers. Appreciate it. Bye bye, man. Cheers.